Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Implementing the RealCareer Employability Skills Program, the Teach Soft Skills. My name is Emily Kuhn. I am on the marketing team here at RealityWorks, and I will also be moderating today's webinar. Now, before we dive into our soft skills program and how you can use it to help your students develop those key soft skills, I'd like to take a moment to review some quick logistics. First, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. But if you have a question at any time throughout the webinar, you can use either the questions button on your screen or the chat feature, Second, we will be recording today's presentation, and we'll be posting that recording on our website within the next few days. And finally, we will be emailing everyone who is attending today's webinar a certificate of completion that you can use for any professional development opportunities that you may have. Leslie, before we get started today, I would also like to introduce today's webinar presenter, Denise Bogart. Denise is a valued member of our team here at RealityWorks. She's not only the product manager for RealCare Baby and related child development and health products, but she helped develop the curriculum for this employability skills program. She has worked in education for over 25 years and frequently contributes to industry publications and presents at various CDE conferences. In fact, if any of you are going to be at this year's Vision 2018 conference in San Antonio next month, you can look for Denise because she'll be there presenting on learning methods that engage today's Generation Z students. With that, I will go ahead and turn the presentation over to Denise.
Thanks, Emily, and welcome everyone to today's session all about the employability skills curriculum. We will take a look at the reason for the program as a whole, and then we will be taking a look at each of the individual lessons and some of the activities we use to teach all those soft skills that are included in the program. Now, before we begin, we'll just quickly define what these skills are. Now, employability skills, also known as soft skills, are really basically the skills needed to help you get and keep a job. And there really isn't one defined list. If you Google soft skills or employability skills, you'll find dozens of lists of people of the skills that people like to include. So you could have your own list. But what we did, we surveyed over 500 employers and customers several years ago, and we asking them, which employability skills do you feel are the most important? And based on the results of our survey, those were the 20 that we chose to include in our program. Now, the list that you see on the screen in front of you are those skills. Now, this program is designed to be used in any CTE course. It may be used as a standalone unit for teaching soft skills, or it can supplement any materials you may already be using. So helping your students become college and career ready is the primary goal for our programs. Now, one way to ensure career readiness is to give your students the opportunity to actively practice a variety of soft skills. This new employability skills program introduces participants to many very important soft skills desired by employers through a variety of activities and discussions related to each of these soft skills. Now, do not underestimate the importance of soft skills in the workplace. In a recent study conducted by LinkedIn, 57% of business leaders rated soft skills more important than hard skills. Another statistic by Leadership IQ is the fact that 89% of new hires that don't work out, the reason is a soft skills gap. Now, job success, we believe, is deeply dependent on an employee's soft skills. Let's take a look at this recent study. Here it says 85% of the success that you have on the job is related to your soft skill ability. So with that, I think we all see the need for soft skills to be taught in our programs. Let's now take a deeper dive into all of the lessons that are a part of the RealCareer Employability Skills program. Now we'll start out with lesson 1, which is on communication. And in this lesson, we want to help our participants learn about various types of communication and how important effective and clear communication is on the job. So students will use clear verbal communication skills in a small group activity. Now we'll form groups of 4, and then each student is assigned a specific role, either director, manager, creator, or observer. Now the director is shown an image that he must verbally describe to the manager. And the creator is located in a place where they can't hear this. The observer follows and watches everything, taking note of what is working and what isn't. The manager then goes to the creator to draw the image as described by the manager. And after the activity, you compare the creator's drawn image to the image originally given to the director, and you get to see how close or not the creator got for accuracy. Now then it moves on to the next stage, focusing on written communication. And here's where participants are taught just how to write a business letter in block style. The third activity involves using nonverbal communication. Now here students will play a version of charades and think of what it's like for people to communicate nonverbally. Students complete a handout on how various body languages could be perceived in a workplace setting. And then this lesson concludes with a class discussion on how we change the way we communicate with different audiences. For example, when you're with friends and family, you may communicate differently than you do when you're with coworkers. Now, lesson 2 is all about effective teamwork and the skills needed to be an effective team player or team member. Now, they are introduced to the 3 most common types of work teams. Now, in the first activity, it involves individual versus team solutions. So you'll read a scenario and each student will have 5 minutes to identify as many solutions to that issue as possible. Next, the students are given the characteristics of an effective work team handout. They reflect on the scenario that they just worked with. Would it have been easier to identify solutions while working with a team? Now, another activity is an effective team leadership activity. Now here, each student will lead a small group through a specific activity. Each leadership task is given 10 minutes, and then students reflect on the type of leader they were after the activity. The third practice activity is the teamwork survival exercise. This is a really fun one. The class will read through a scenario together that involves making decisions on the most important items they should have to survive if they're shipwrecked on an island. And then the lesson concludes with a self-inventory of teamwork skills. Students will also watch a short video movie clip from the movie Apollo 13 that illustrates good teamwork in action. Lesson 3 focuses on the important skill of problem solving and critical thinking. The lesson begins with learning the 7 steps to solving a problem effectively. Now, the first activity is problem solving as an individual. As work-related problem scenarios are read, they should solve the problem in that scenario. But then the second activity is problem solving on a work team. Each group is given a work-related scenario to problem solve together. Now, the third activity is problem solving and critical thinking. It's a case scenario that they work through to a solution in approximately 15 to 20 minutes. And then this lesson concludes with a short discussion with students asking if any of them have had a problem that occurred on the job. And then you'd ask questions like the type of problem that it was, the steps that were taken to resolve it, who made the decisions, and that kind of thing. In this lesson, students will consider how technology is used in various occupations and how that has changed over time. The lesson begins by showing suggested video clips on technology in the workplace. Now, the first activity is creating a PowerPoint presentation. Students are tasked with creating a 10-slide presentation all about an occupation of their choosing. Now, they'll include things like typical duties, work environment, education required, average salary, and job outlook, etc. The second activity is creating a basic spreadsheet using Excel. Now, the students are given the task of creating a one-day menu, including food and beverage choices, and then they use this data to create a daily calorie spreadsheet. And the third activity will be all about using the internet to research and write a blog. The topic there to research is the 21st century employee, what employers are looking for in today's workforce. And then the final part of the lesson is a self-reflection exercise all about their very own technology skills and interests. We find that self-inventories make students very thoughtfully reflect on any skill that it's used with. Lesson 5 is on time management, and it will help your students learn about the importance of time as a finite resource and how to manage it well. The lesson begins with a suggested time management self-assessment resource. And the first activity will introduce something called the priority matrix. Students learn how to identify tasks that are urgent, not urgent, important, and not important, and they will then divide them into the 4 quadrants. Students are divided into small groups and given a list of work tasks that they will need to prioritize into those 4 quadrants of the matrix. The second time management activity is all about identifying and overcoming barriers of time management. Pairs of students will work through a scenario that's full of time management challenges. They identify the barriers in the scenario and then potential time management solutions. The third activity is where students will make it personal and do a personal time study for 1 week. They will then add up each task into categories. Then they'll ask themselves things like, what can they do in order to have the time that they don't have let me say that again. What can they do in order to have time to do the things that they don't have time for now? And do they feel overscheduled? And then this lesson ends with students reflecting on 4 different ways time management can help them in their personal life as well as their work life. Now, lesson 6 begins with a discussion about job interviews and the purpose of the interview. Students receive types of a job interview handout. And then the participants are next given the stages of a job interview organizer. The instructor will share information about each stage of the interview process. The class is then divided into small groups, and each group has 1 category of questions to brainstorm about. While each group will present their question list, a master question list is then prepared, and students go online and find an actual job to apply for. After students have prepared questions to the answers, or answers to the questions, they will then schedule a mock interview. Now, it's suggested to use local HR professionals if possible, inviting them into the class to conduct a 10-minute interview with each student. This lesson then concludes with a short mini lesson on writing a thank you letter. Being motivated is a key employability skill that will increase success on the job. This lesson begins by defining intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Participants will identify things that personally motivate themselves. And then some key questions for discussion will be asked, such as, is one type of motivation better than the other? Or if you were a manager, what would you do to motivate extrinsically motivated people? And then students will complete a motivation self-assessment. Now, the last part of the lesson involves identifying characteristics of motivated workers. Students think about someone they have worked with personally that they consider to be very highly motivated. What characteristics did they observe? A class discussion will follow about the type of people they would like to work with. What are ways to keep yourself and others motivated at work? Not always easy. Who is responsible? And then students complete a motivation and goal setting worksheet. Lesson 8, work ethic. Now, we know a person's work ethic is a compilation of all the characteristics that make you who you are. This lesson helps your students understand what a positive work ethic is comprised of and how it can lead to being a valuable professional as a member of the employee team. Students will complete an exercise identifying the most important characteristics reflecting a strong work ethic. Students then complete a work ethic self-reflection exercise. Now, this is confidential and for their own personal use. They will be asked to identify characteristics they believe other people would like or other people would use to describe their work ethic. And then they set 2 measurable goals for improving their own work ethic. The last part of the lesson involves a work ethic scenario. Small groups of students will read through and identify those positive characteristics and the negative. They'll discuss questions such as, if you were her supervisor or manager, what could you do to help her become a better employee? If you were the employee, what could you do to improve your own work ethic? Or if you were a coworker, what advice would you give to her? Now, we know that listening is more than just hearing. It is key to effective communication. Without the ability to listen, messages could be misunderstood and communication can definitely break down. So students will discuss how listening is defined and that it requires concentrating and use of other senses to be engaged. One key statistic is that adults spend an average of 70% of their time engaged in some form of communication. So students will contemplate, how can good listening skills improve your performance at work? Students will learn tips for being an active listener, and then they'll put these tips to practice. One volunteer will help model the summarize and repeat or paraphrasing technique. Students will pair up. One is the paraphraser, while the other is the speaker, and then they engage in a conversation through active listening techniques. Then the last part of the lesson will focus on identifying potential barriers to communication. They will have a list of solutions that they can put into practice for becoming much better listeners. Now, a person's ability to give and receive respect can make a significant impact at work. Being respectful has many benefits for employers and employees alike. Getting respect can also have a great impact on one's self-worth. Now, once students have given some thought to just how respectful they are, discussion questions are asked. How do you feel when someone judges you without knowing you or bases their judgment on appearance only? What are some things you can do to make a work environment more respectful? Now, another activity involves a series of workplace case studies. Each small group will take one of those case studies and identify the traps that ensure, or the the things that will ensure a more positive outcome. And then these things will be shared with the class. Now, one example is your coworker Janelle confides in you that the manager at the restaurant has been criticizing her in front of customers. She's ready to quit because she's tired of looking foolish in front of customers. What should you do? So those are some real workplace situations that your students can contemplate and work themselves through. Responsibility has to do with integrity and character. How you accept responsibility, especially on the job, will build respect and trust with coworkers and supervisors. So the lesson begins by defining what responsibility is, and then students are asked to identify ways in which they have to be responsible. Students will consider the types of responsibility they have to various groups, and then they'll complete something called the How Responsible Am I self-assessment. The lesson here ends with a work scenario being shared. Students will complete the responsibility at work activity, answering questions regarding, again, another workplace scenario. For example here, Marty works on an assembly line in a large computer factory. His company received a very large order for 500 computers, and they need everyone to work overtime for the next 5 days in order to get the job done. Now, Marty has plans to go to a movie tonight, so discuss. To successfully navigate an ever-changing world, young people need to be adaptable and flexible. Think of the changes that can occur over the lifespan, or that have things like medical breakthroughs, new technology, new career opportunities. This will help your students to take a closer look at adaptability and flexibility, and consider why these skills are in such high demand from employers. We begin by asking students, are flexibility and adaptability the same thing? How does it apply to a work environment? Now, a few key statistics will be shared, such as on a list of top 10 skills that employers want, flexibility came in 9th. Here's another one. 91% of HR directors think that by the year of 2019, people will be recruited on their ability to deal with change and uncertainty. Now, students are then put into small groups, and they will brainstorm ways to show employers that they are truly flexible and adaptable. The last activity will have your students choose an occupation, and then they'll research and discover typical job duties. And your students must give a situation that they would need to demonstrate flexibility in this type of career. So they actually put it to work. In lesson 13, we talk about interpersonal skills. Now, we know employers often seek to hire people with strong interpersonal skills. Well, this lesson will help your students understand what they are and just how they apply to the workplace. So we'll begin by asking your students if they know what interpersonal skills are. Have they heard of social skills or people skills? Same thing. So you'll discuss which interpersonal skills your students believe are most important, and then you'll access a list of them. So students will consider their own interpersonal skill levels by completing an interpersonal skills self-assessment. Then the final part of the lesson will deal with the art of starting a conversation. Now, sometimes people find it difficult to start a conversation with a stranger. Many times employment situations call upon employees to speak to people that they just don't know. Well, this lesson will help them develop strategies for starting a conversation in a variety of different scenarios. And then students will share their strategies at the end of the class. Negotiation is the art of effectively communicating about a problem or an issue to try to reach an acceptable solution by both parties. This lesson will help your students learn the 5-step negotiation process and just how to apply it in employment situations. So your students will learn the terms negotiation versus mediation, and then they'll take a closer look at each of the 5 stages of the negotiation process: prepare, discuss, propose, bargain, and agree. This will then lead into a discussion about the pitfalls to avoid and tips for achieving a win-win solution in the negotiating process. Now, students will choose one of the types of agreements that they learn about and create a scenario where they would use that process to negotiate a win. The last activity will be a discussion of various solutions to try when a win-win just is not possible. So they'll read through each scenario, choosing a solution, and then they'll explain the reason for that choice. Now, networking, lesson 15. We find that networking is just the very best way to find a job according to many studies and articles. So just what is it? Well, it's the cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. So, of course, to get better at it, you do need to practice. So the students will be introduced to networking by looking into all the ways that they can think of to find a job. A majority of jobs aren't advertised, so just how are people finding out about these jobs? Well, it's networking. One statistic to share is that 41% of people have landed a job through networking, but you can just as easily find some statistics that are significantly higher at 80%. So the first task will be to have your students complete a very short research activity where they research various networking channels for a specific type of occupation. Next, they will learn how to write an email networking message for finding employment. And then lastly, you'll discuss how to use social media to help you find a job. Students will complete a social networking journaling activity. Thinking about your own social networking habits, how do you think using these social networks can support your job efforts? Does the use of social networking make you feel more comfortable than face-to-face communication? Choose yes or no and explain why. Patience. Patience is definitely a vital interpersonal skill in the ability to tolerate situations without becoming upset or letting emotions get in the way. Now, this can truly be a very valuable asset in the workplace. This lesson will help your students develop the ability to think through and resolve problems without acting impulsively or emotionally. The lesson will begin by reading a work scenario to the class. And then it involves you being put into the situation that could make you feel impatient or anxious. And students identify how they're feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then these are identified as symptoms of impatience. So finding the root cause of the impatience and then, of course, having coping mechanisms is the focus of the next activity. So students will complete the finding a cause and managing the symptoms thing. They'll identify triggers in a small group and they'll identify management strategies to share. The next activity then discusses how to improve your patience at work. So students will design a motivational poster that an employer could post in the workplace entitled, "Keep Calm and Carry On." So we know that many careers require some sort of speaking ability, whether presenting in front of a large group or not. Now, the fear of public speaking impacts many people. In fact, this lesson will give students information on how to overcome common public speaking issues to effectively conduct a presentation. We have found that fear of public speaking, also known as glossophobia, affects 3 out of 4 people, and that's a lot of people. So it's a valuable soft skill that can be practiced and improved. So you'll begin by sharing a list of the top 10 tips for effective presentations. And then students are given something called the Death by PowerPoint exercise, where they write down ways to make slide presentations more engaging and interesting. And then the 10-20-30 rule is shared. And this means try to include no more than 10 slides, last no more than 20 minutes, and use no less than 30-point font. And then students put this into practice by developing a 10-slide presentation about an occupation of interest. And just that topic alone will give your students a lot of career exploration opportunities as each of the students will share their information. The next one is all about self-confidence. And we believe that self-confidence is a very important trait to have in the area of every area of life, including the workplace. People who lack self-confidence can find it very difficult to become successful. Confident people seem to draw people to them. So this lesson is meant to give students tools to use to build their self-confidence and self-esteem. So you'll begin by defining just what is self-esteem and self-efficacy. They'll take a how confident are you self-assessment, and then next students will learn, they'll have to describe a situation where they did not speak up for themselves and how they can become more self-assertive. So this will then lead through a series of discussion questions to help them better understand self-esteem and confidence. For example, if someone has self-confidence, would you think they're conceited? Why or why not? Why do you think some people have self-esteem and others have low? Do you have control over your sense of self-esteem? So students will learn the importance of positive self-talk. And then tips will also be conducted during a SWOT analysis that will help them identify their strengths to build on, weaknesses to minimize, the opportunities to be realized, and then the threats to control so they can build their self-confidence. Some stress is normal, however, excessive stress can interfere with your health and well-being. So this lesson will help your students learn to recognize the ways they respond to stress and what they can do to manage it successfully. So the lesson will begin by defining stress, and you'll have students complete the signs of a stress mind map activity, where they need to think of the signs and symptoms of stress, including things physically, emotionally, health-related, and work-related. Now that the students have recognized the signs, they'll need to learn to manage them. So you'll share a list of stress management techniques, and then after that, students will get into small groups and work together to prepare a short presentation on one stress management technique. And then the lesson will conclude with the students reading about various work stressors and give an example of a positive response that they could use. Now, the Employability Skills Program, again, is for use for any CTE pathway. So again, we've gone over those 19 lessons, but in addition to that, there are PowerPoint presentations that go along with each of those 19 lessons. There are also something called the workplace scenario cards, and there's one card for each of the soft skills in the program. On one side of the card, there's a real work scenario that you read through, and then when you flip the card over, there is a section on points of view to consider and key questions for discussion. So that card deck can be used many different ways. You could use it as a whole class icebreaker on that specific soft skill that you're going to teach on the lesson that day, or you could even use it at the end of the class period. Again, it's a whole group wrap up. It could be a journaling activity, or you could even turn it into a small group activity where you read that scenario to the various small groups, and then they discuss and they work through it and answer the discussion questions. Also, with the Employability Skills Program, you get 20 student workbooks to start with. And I will tell you that student workbook is a terrific take-home reference when you're done with the program, because it has all of the checklists, the self-assessments, all of the, it has things like how to write a resume. It has examples of the thank you letter, the negotiating strategies, the team building strategies. So there's just a ton of information in there that they can take away with them. In addition, but when you need more workbooks, of course, you can easily order more in packs of 20 on our website. But we are really excited to share something brand new that will be out by the end of this year, and that is our 6 new scenario card pathway specific decks. And you can see the 6 different areas. We've got nursing scenarios, geriatric, culinary, childcare, welding, and ag. And each of the card decks, again, will feature those 19 cards. There will be a card for each of the soft skills in the employability skills lesson. And we have had business and industry experts in each of those 6 areas write the scenarios for us, because we wanted very realistic workplace scenarios that your students can realistically expect to encounter someday on the job. So we are just thrilled to offer these, and these again will be available on our website by year's end. So be looking for those 6 brand new card decks coming your way very, very soon.
Boy, well, thanks, Denise. You just shared a plethora of really great information about how to use this program to help your students develop those key soft skills. So now what? Well, we are here to help you implement this program if you wish, or learn how you can address these soft skills in your classroom. You can feel free to contact us. Our account managers are right here to provide you with either a personalized quote if you're ready, or just help you implement this program into your unique classroom with your unique classroom needs. We do also offer a free soft skills infographic. We've made this available right on our website that you can access anytime to help you and your students keep these important skills top of mind. So if you visit our website, realityworks.com, you can find that interactive poster. Go ahead and download it and print it out for your own classroom. We're also here to help you keep learning. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can check out our blog. You can look for us at various CTE conferences, like we referenced in the beginning, the fact that Denise will be presenting at Vision 2018 next month. We are at these conferences to give educators a way to not only learn more about our products, but help you learn how to engage your students in the development of key skills like the 20 soft skills we just discussed. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the webinar to any questions. We're here to help you. We are ready to answer your questions live. You have 2 ways to ask those questions. You may use the questions button on the screen in front of you, or you can use the chat feature. Now, it does look like we've already had a few questions as Denise has been presenting this afternoon, so we'll go ahead and just dive right into those. Oh, perfect. And Eric, yep, I bet we can see your questions on the Q&A tab, so we'll go ahead and click right into there. Yep, sure enough. It looks like someone is wondering, are these handouts provided digitally so we can duplicate them for different classes?
Yes, when you purchase the program, you will receive a link that will take you to a website where you have the ability to print out any of the any of the things, the items that you want. But the workbooks are meant to be, a hard copy for each student to get their own, and then you would order up more. But yeah, you can definitely print things out as well as needed.
Wonderful. And Eric's got a great follow-up question too. Is this a one-time purchase, or is this licensed by the number of students we have? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is a really good question. And it is not a site license. It is a program that you purchase once, so you would get your instructor guide and your 20 starter student workbooks. And then just as you need more workbooks, you just order those as needed.
Okay, wonderful. And does this come with PowerPoints to lead classroom discussions?
Yeah, absolutely does. On the link that you get with your purchase, it will take you to a website that has all those different PowerPoints by lesson.
Okay, wonderful. We do have someone wondering, has this been implemented effectively in an online environment?
Because this is really a hard copy program, we have not done so. It doesn't mean that we haven't had our customers perhaps try to do that on their, we're not aware of any, but right now it is truly in print and not meant as a digital or online interactive program in that manner.
Wonderful, thanks Denise. It looks like we do have a few more if you want to scroll down
Sure.
just a smidge. Are there any videos included?
No videos. There are a few lessons that have links to some videos, but there are no specific videos that come with the program.
So if you're using this as a supplemental tool, you could feel free to incorporate your own videos.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. How much time do you recommend for each lesson? Now, I just use the word supplemental. We do consider this, you could use either this either as a supplemental program or as a
that's a great question that we get quite often. Each lesson, if you teach everything and do all the activities, is about an hour long. But the nice thing about this is if you don't have that much time, you could choose one of the activities. Like I said at the beginning, every soft skill is applied at anywhere from 2 to 4 activities. So if you have the luxury of the time, the full hour, you could do all of them. But if you have even 15 minutes to 30 minutes, you could just choose one of the activities and just, it would be a shorter lesson, but you could do that. Also know that each of the lessons is standalone. So, so if you don't have time to do all 19 lessons, if there are some soft skills that are more important to your program than others, you could choose just to do those if you needed. But if you did all 20 or 19 lessons, it would be anywhere from 20 to 25 hours of content, depending on how deep you go into each lesson. But again, it's very customizable, and we did that on purpose because we know many times instructors pick and choose from a variety of resources. So that makes it a little easier.
Perfect. I'm glad that question got addressed. I feel like that's really a hidden gem of this particular program. Looks like someone wants to know, what is the cost for the soft skills package?
The package, which includes the 20 student workbooks, the scenario cards, and the instructor guide, is $4.99. And then the 20 additional workbooks are $2.99 for bundles of 20.
Okay, and just to regroup, that does include the workbooks, which are the hard copies that would you have one per student, and as soon as you have a new class, you'd order more for your students. But that instructor guide provides the PowerPoints and the lesson structure for you that you can then use repeatedly.
Correct. Yep.
Right. So you buy once, and you really only need to rebuy the workbooks.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Perfect. It looks like someone else was wondering as well, the cost per instructor and 20 student workbooks. So Denise, great, you just answered that. And now again, how much does this program cost? Wonderful. Great. Wonderful. Well, all really great questions.
One other question I frequently get that wasn't asked here today, but I wanted to address is, are there assessments included in it? And at the link that you get that takes you to the PowerPoints, we do in fact have a pre and post summative assessment. So if you taught all of the content, you could use that as a program, final exam if you wanted. Some instructors are using it pre and post to measure knowledge gained over that course or program. So that does exist as well if you want to use it. And then we also have a certificate of completion at that link that if they finish it all, it's something tangible that you could print out and hand to your student that says that they have completed this program, and it is something that they could take and show a prospective employer that they've completed some employability skills training. So something tangible, again, that they could use for getting a job.
Another question, does this program have industry recognition allowing students to earn a credential? That's a great question.
It is, and unfortunately we do not have a industry recognized certification you can go after in employability skills. Now, we have found that this program can be used to help prepare for other certifications that are more topic specific, like there might be, let me see, there might be, whether it be nursing, or it even could be human resources, or it might be early childhood. There are some entities that have employability skills incorporated with their certifications, but there is just not one specific certification here that we go after. But it can certainly help prepare your students for other things.
We get that question often.
Yeah.
I feel like it's on our radar if there was a way to do it.
Yeah.
That's
All
a
right.
great
Well, we
question.
have exceeded our half hour here. So, oh, there is no extra cost for that completion certificate. It is available to you to print from that link as desired. So you can use it or not. It's totally up to
The
you.
post-assessment
Yes,
certificate.
yep.
Okay.
Well, no, it's separate from, it's a certificate of completion. So there's the assessment, but then there's the program certificate as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all.
questions.
Yeah,
Thank you,
this is good.
everyone.
Very, very good questions. Thank you all for participating today. And we really appreciate the time you spent with us, and we hope that you'll find the program very valuable.
Absolutely. And again, keep an eye on your inbox. We will send an email with this recording and your own certificates of completion following today's webinar. Thanks very much.
Thank you.